Michael,
Hey, Ricky. How are you
how are
doing this evening?
I am doing fantastic, my friend. How are you?
Okay, I've been reading some really great stuff this past week. I've been
Oh yeah.
really been trying to, read a little bit up on some history and
Oh, okay.
a couple of things.
Like
I'm
recent
reading
history, ancient history.
just some science, some history. I just kind of
Okay.
just been, I just started reading some different books and different articles. Got my brain going. So
Mm.
I've got one book that I really like. It's a book about anti gravity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's really impossible to put down. It's a and so it's really riveting. And then there was an article I read about they actually had a guy who invented the knock knock joke. You hear about this guy?
I haven't heard about the guy who
Yeah,
invented the knock knock joke.
yeah. Apparently, he won the Nobel Prize. So I thought, um, yeah. But and then I had some bad news. A friend of mine, he worked in a. I didn't know they had one in the United States, but he worked in a banana factory, which I thought was
Oh,
odd.
okay.
But he got fired because he kept throwing away all the bent ones. So um,
Maybe we should start the show.
banana factory.
It's the Speaking Nerdy podcast with your host, Mr. Mike Schilling.
And my good friend and compadre, Mr. Ricky Poe. Ah, man, banana factories.
The bent ones.
Oh,
Oh my
man.
gosh.
Well, tonight, folks, we're just going to talk about whatever we need to talk about. But the focus is the writer's strike and
Yes.
how that's affecting the industry. You're thinking, how is this nerdy? Well, it's really affecting your nerdiness.
Yes.
Nerdy. I mean, so in a way, it
All
is
those
something.
nerdy shows that we are
Yes,
excited about could have issues.
could have issues, and some that has me concerned as a fan of certain brands. So,
Yep.
but we're going to go over some nerdy news tonight. Just and we might have some opinions, some discussions about it. But anyway, this came up, and I thought to myself, apparently Disney is really getting into the whole live action remake of certain
Yes.
things, which they're going really gung ho. They have Snow White was one, Lilo and Stitch, what I've heard about, Mufasa, the
Mm-hmm.
Lion King, Mona in development, Hunchback of Notre Dame, The Aristocrats,
The
Hercules.
Aristocats, really?
Yeah, yes, and
A live
develop.
action. I okay. I just I'm envisioning Cats the
Yeah,
movie,
yeah. Oh, that's bad.
but like I'm envisioning that,
Yeah,
but trying to do a movie I actually really liked.
yeah. I think there's some movies that need to be should remain as an animation. Uh, Here's another. Hercules is in development. Cruella
Okay, I
2,
could see that one. That one, you know.
Tink. I guess that's Tinkerbell. The Sword in the Stone is in
Oh, that
development.
okay. I
That
can see that one. That
I
could
can
work
I,
live
I
action.
can see that. Yeah, Jungle Book 2, which I didn't see the
Wait,
first one.
really? The okay.
The original
Are they
Jungle Book was
making another live action Jungle Book
off of the other live
off
action
of
Jungle
the
Book or the
what,
Jungle.
or are they actually going to use the Jungle Book 2 cartoon storyline?
I don't know. It's whatever
That's
Disney can. It's whatever Disney can milk. So whatever
well,
they can
yeah, we
do.
know that. Yeah.
So then there's Bambi, which we're going to see Bambi's mother get shot in live action. So that's
I
good.
don't want to see that. I don't think that.
Aladdin 2, is that Shazam or is that what was that, Shazam with Shaq playing?
Oh my gosh.
Robin Hood. How many? I don't know how many stories of Robin Hood you can
Okay,
do.
yeah, I was gonna say Robin Hood kind of works, but
It's
the
been
fun
done.
part of the fun part of the cartoon is that they're all animals.
Animals, exactly.
What-
Unless you're gonna try to put a fox in an outfit.
You're gonna dress Chris Pine up as a
Yes,
fox. I don't
and
see the point of that one. I
I don't see
don't.
the
Just,
point. I don't know
I mean,
why.
now if you're just going to make a Robin Hood, a live action Robin Hood movie,
Yeah,
that's fine. But
do it.
don't try to say it's a remake of the cartoon. I don't think
Yeah.
that's a good plan on that one.
And the other one was Black Cauldron, which
Okay, that's
it's
interesting. That's an interesting movie. I'm not sure. I'm not sure live. I'm
yeah.
not sure about that one. That one could work, maybe.
I but but as we're talking about live action films, live films, they have How to Train Your Dragon. They have a live action remake cast that's going
I've heard
to
about this.
yeah, and
Um,
so
Now that could work.
yeah, I think that could work.
Now I do think they need to bring some of the comic actors that did the original voices in.
Yeah.
What is his name? He's a Scottish comedian, and he is hysterical, and he's one of the voices. I can't think of what his name is right off the top of my head. If they're going to do that, they need to bring him on,
Bring him on.
and he would be great.
Yeah. We need to IMDb it because I don't know the guy's name either. Um,
So,
but
any other now? I actually have a little news about a live action remake.
well, go ahead, throw it in there.
Yeah, it's the box office news. So, I like doing box office news every week. And this past weekend, the live action remake of The Little Mermaid has already knocked Fast 10 off of the number one spot in the box office. So,
Okay.
Fast 10 was only in number one spot for a week.
Okay.
But Little Mermaid live action did a domestic box office of $117 million over the long weekend because it was Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
But it only did a total of 185 million worldwide, which
Hmm.
means most movies tend to do pretty good domestically, 100 million ish.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them will do 50% more worldwide or
Yeah.
even double that.
Yeah.
But on top of, so, if you make 100 million domestically, you might make another 150 million
Yeah.
worldwide. This one did not do so well. And So it's struggling with its worldwide audience. And I'm not quite sure I understand why. But apparently it didn't go over well in China specifically, because in China it actually did poorer than other movies that had already been out multiple weeks.
Gotcha. Huh.
So that's kind of an odd situation. Now I will say this is a mixed bag. Usually we see something like this come out and the critics are raving about it.
Yeah. Exactly.
In this instance, they didn't so much.
No, that's what I've
Uh,
heard.
yeah,
Yeah.
the last when I looked at it last, I didn't look at it today to double check this, but the critic score, and it had a couple hundred critics, official critic score, of 67%,
Hmm.
which isn't horrible, but not great.
Yeah.
But the audience score is pretty good.
Yeah.
When I looked at it last, it was 95%, and that was with 5,000 plus people. So that's interesting situation for Disney, where the critics didn't go for it,
Yeah.
and the audience did. Because lately we've seen some movies like this where the critics raved about it and the audience didn't buy it.
Yeah, there's been a flip flop. I think it's almost a disconnect between critics and the actual audience that goes see them, actually pay the money to go see the movie. So
Yeah,
I kind of I have a tendency to lean towards the audience more
I
than I
do
do the
too.
critics. So
I do too. And I think there was probably a lot of nostalgia. This is one of those movies where they waited, I think they waited the right amount of time.
yeah,
And a minute ago, you mentioned Moana.
yeah,
I think that one's too early.
yeah.
I think it's too early for a live action remake. And here's why. These live action remakes do really well because people like
Hmm.
me grew up on the cartoons. We saw them when we were much younger. And then we take our children to see these remakes. Now, it's not a perfect fit for me because my kids are grown now, but a lot of that nostalgia works. So now the soccer mom that grew up on this cartoon, this animated movie that they loved, is now taking their kids to see the live action version, and
Gotcha.
it is a almost guaranteed success at the
Yeah,
box office when you do that.
yeah,
But then you bring something in like Moana, and I mean, my kids saw Moana when they were probably just a little too old for it.
yeah,
Um, but they don't have kids yet
yeah,
to take their kids to see it.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah,
And most of the kids that were the perfect age aren't aren't going to have kids old enough to appreciate the live action version. So I think that one's a little too early. But we'll have to see how that goes. Along with that, the a lot of people were excited to see the voice of Moana
hmm,
play her in live action, but she has decided not to. And she her one of the statements I read was that she was excited to help the new Moana take her place. So I guess she would be willing, whatever actress they choose,
yeah.
she would be willing to go and do some coaching and share her experience as Moana to help the new actress. So that's kind of interesting ideas, but Little Mermaid doing really well domestically, not doing so well worldwide. Um, so I'm not really sure why. But at this point, my guess is they're going to make their $250 million budget back,
Hmm.
but just it's not going to be a $500 million blockbuster.
Doesn't sound like it. You know, the an article talks about Ezra Miller, the Flash director. He was talking about how Ezra Miller shouldn't be replaced if there's a sequel, which I thought was interesting. Uh,
Okay,
I don't see there being a sequel, but
I
uh,
don't either.
this is probably going to be the end of the Zack Snyder verse. So,
Hmm.
um, but I find that interesting. They also have last name is Grant. He is the Flash, uh, the actor of playing the Flash in the I think
On the
it's a
TV show.
CW TV show.
Yeah,
And there was a comment about in that article where the director talked about that only Ezra Miller is capable of playing the role of the Flash. And I think many of the fans of the CW series took offense to that and took it on the
as they should.
Twitterverse. Yeah, and I think the guy who plays the Flash in the CW actually would be a actually is a perfect role for the Flash, but unfortunately, I think he's going to be typecast for TV instead of being able to come over to
Yes,
the movies, and I hate that.
my
I really hate that.
expectation. Yeah, my expectation is that when and if we do get another Flash movie
Yeah.
or have a Flash character in the new DCU
Hmm.
of James Gunn, my guess is we will have a whole new actor.
I think
And
so
it
too.
won't be either one of them.
No, I don't think so. I think we're going. Gunn is going to a total different direction with all of this,
Yes, I agree.
and so we'll see what happens down the
Well,
road. And the next, go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of
No,
sequels,
yeah,
um, I read this week that it appears we have not seen the last of John Wick, as many might have supposed. Lionsgate confirmed that there will be a John Wick 5.
hmm.
And this was from some information from their quarterly earnings report for Lionsgate. Uh, there are some spin-offs from John Wick,
I was
another
hearing about
movie,
that. Yeah,
and a TV show at least. And what they said on the earnings call was to expect John Wick 5 to spin out of ideas that come from the spin-off movie and the TV show.
interesting.
So those are going to, they won't just exist in the same universe. They will exist in the same universe and will push the whatever story comes out for John Wick 5. I mean, at this point, I wouldn't expect anything before 2025, maybe 20 early 2026, just because of timing and the writer's strike. I can't
Yeah,
imagine they'll get anything out before then.
yeah. One movie I'm hoping to see have a sequel, but unfortunately, I don't think they did very well in the box office. Was the Dungeon and Dragons
Oh
Honor
yes.
Among Thieves? I had a chance to watch it the other day, and I really liked it. I'm hoping for us to do a review on that pretty soon. But I think Mike, I think the thing with Dungeons and Dragons, when people hear Dungeons and Dragons, they think it's just for this small group of people or this
Hyper
or this.
nerdy,
Yeah,
lives
but
in my parents' basement
but
kind
this
of
was
person. Yeah.
yeah, but this was so much more than that, and I really enjoyed it. Not playing much Dungeons and Dragons or role playing type of games as far as
Hmm.
pen and paper, tabletop type of stuff.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. I thought Chris Pine, it was a great cast of people. So I hope it gets some love. If anything, I think it should come out on streaming service if it doesn't go back out on the movies.
Oh yeah.
I think maybe it would have had a better time on a streaming service. Like I think it's from Paramount, so they could be on Paramount Plus or something like
Mm.
that. Um,
Well, now I was gonna say we had. I mentioned it was, I don't remember if it was last week or the week before. They are working on, Wizards of the Coast is working on a Dungeons and Dragons streaming channel.
oh, okay, yeah,
So
yeah,
I mean that could be an option.
that could be an option too. So anyway, I'm hopefully we can get a chance to watch that and do a review on it. I enjoyed it. So, and since we mentioned DC, we have to. This is a kind of a op piece. The Avengers can never be the same again as in the MCU, it's which basically I thought it was an interesting piece, and really what it comes down to in this piece is that unlike the original Avengers, they were able to form
Hmm.
relationships and bonds, and they were able to, be able to spend time in the same universe.
Hmm.
The new Avengers, if you want to call it that, this new phase of Avengers,
Hmm.
they're spread out so far and in between that they really do not have any building of some kind of relational uh, in any type of relationship. So it'd be interesting how that will come together. But in the very beginning, Marvel, beginning with Tony Stark, they really started building relationships right away.
Hmm.
And so I thought the op Pete was interesting. I think most people know that, but anyway, I brought that up just because it was an interesting piece in Screen Rant. So,
Very
uh,
cool.
yeah. So, anything else you have on the
I,
agenda?
I don't have anything else right now.
Well, what do we do next in these situations?
Well, generally, we do
Yes.
stupid news.
Well, I guess we should do something stupid and do some stupid news.
It's the Weird and Stupid News with your host, Mr. Mike Schilling.
Good evening, fellow nerds, and tonight on Stupid News, a New York man thought he was saving his neighbor's dog from a blazing fire. In reality, he was high on LSD.
Oh my. Was he saving something other than the dog, or was there no fire?
Well, according to local news, Michael Orchard of Half Moon, New York, mixed cough syrup and LSD and then beginning hallucinating that there was a fire at his neighbor's house. So no, there was no fire.
Okay.
He tried to warn his neighbors about the non-existent inferno, but couldn't find any help. So Orchard then drove his black BMW through his yard. Orchard then drove his black BMW through his yard and over his neighbor's fence. He smashed through the back door and saved the family's dog from the flames.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Oh wow. That's a whole lot there. Yeah. Yes. Local news reports that Orchard was charged with second-degree burglary, third-degree criminal mischief, and
Stole the dog.
And booked in the county jail on $15,000 bail. The dog was not harmed during the rescue. Oh man,
The non-rescue. Oh my goodness.
Oh, this next one, well, the big cheese of extreme UK sports events has rolled back into town. That's right. Imagine hundreds of spectators gathering to witness the madness of grown adults chasing after a 7-pound wheel of double Gloucester cheese. That's right. Double Gloucester cheese. Yes, you heard me right. People are actually risking life and limb for this cheese. That's right. Located near
the running of the cheese.
The running of the cheese. Located.
That's what Brie does.
That's Brie. Exactly. Located on the near vertical Cooper's Hill, just near Gloucester in southwest England, the cheese rolling race is a treacherous descent down a hill so steep that mountain goats would think twice before trying to attempt. Oh, yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my. Yes, that's right. But the first brave soul to catch up with the fast-rolling cheese gets to take it home. That's right. Believe it or not, this particular event has been going on since 1826. Few competitors.
Are videos.
There's videos, I know. Few competitors managed to stay on their feet for the entire 200 yards. That's right, the glorious tumble of arms and legs as if gravity has suddenly turned against them. Yeah, if you folks can't see the shot, look at this. That's the hill that I'm talking about. Yes,
that looks very steep. Yeah. I can see why people would tumble down. There has to be broken bones.
Oh yes, there's people being carried away in gurneys. So,
in gurneys. Oh my goodness.
But hopefully you'll be the lucky guy holding the cheese at the end. So that would be a good thing. Yes, the hill claimed its share of victims this year, leaving a trail of limping cheese enthusiasts in its wake. One remarkable tale from this year's race involves a fearless Canadian named Delina Irving. This 19-year-old won the women's race despite briefly knocked unconscious in the process.
Wait, she got knocked out and she won.
And she won. She said, I just remember hitting my head and now I have the cheese. all the things we do for glory. But in the
Oh
men's
my.
race, Matt Carolla from Manchester emerged victorious for the men's group. When questioned about his training regimen, he shrugged it off with a smile and told reporters, "I don't think you can train for it." He said, "You just have to be an idiot." Wise words and deeds,
Oh
Matt.
my goodness.
Wise
Yes.
indeed. So there you have it, folks. The cheese rolling extravaganza continues to captivate audience, baffling historians, leave competitors nursing their bruises, and a newfound appreciation for gravity. Who needs traditional sports when you can watch people hurt themselves down a hill for a wheel of cheese? Live long to the big cheese, and may the fromage be with you. And that's stupid news. Man, for cheese.
Cheese. What some people won't do for cheese.
Yeah. Be different. It
See,
was like a
that story would have been perfect for Cheese Weasel Day.
weasel. I was thinking cheese weasel day, but I couldn't wait.
Yeah, well,
This is current stuff.
now that's true. We do want to stay current with the stupidity.
Yes. Well, sometimes we do. Sometimes we're desperate and we dig about 20 years in the past, but we pretend like it's today. So, yeah. So tonight we're going to talk about the whole scuttlebutt with the writer strike and how it's
Yes,
affecting everything in the industry. And I know you keep up a lot with what's going on in the industry.
I
Any
try to.
I know you do. So anything, any big things? I mean, let's go back to a little bit of history. What's going on here in the writer's strike? If you can kind of give us a
Okay,
little history. What's going
so
on?
so first, there hasn't been a writer strike, Writers Guild of America strike since 2007. So we're it's been quite some time since we've had this kind of issue.
Yeah,
So they've been in contract negotiations since just after the first of the year,
yeah.
and the existing contract ended on May 1st at midnight.
Okay.
And the guild members had already voted that just a few days before that if the Writers Guild of America could not come up with an agreement with the
Mm-hmm.
studios, that as of the morning of the 12:01 a.m. on the 2nd of May,
Gotcha.
that they would go on strike. And
Okay.
obviously they did not come up with a solution. And so they've been working on several different things. Kind of the big issues that were brought up were um, streaming service, getting paid properly for streaming services. The
That's a big
guild,
deal.
yes, and we can go into more detail on
Yeah.
each of these, but
Yeah.
the big point there is the Writers Guild wants that the writers to be able to get residuals based on the viewership of streaming properties. Okay,
Hmm.
so just keep
Okay.
that in mind. That's a big contention.
Okay.
Um, the second big hang up was the idea of AI taking over writing roles. And there's different parts that could, where that could fall into place. And
Okay.
the Writers Guild suggests some things that studios might try to use AI for, and they basically want to just about outright ban it completely.
Gotcha.
um, there are some other things about that are a little more nitpicky that I don't know all the ins and I don't quite understand all the ins and outs of. It's when, like how much a budget of a film has to be before a writer gets a certain kind of contract versus some other contract. Some of that
Yeah.
gets really into the weeds and it's hard to understand.
Okay.
But one of the other more understandable. And I say understandable meaning it's easy for us to get what they're saying,
Yeah.
whether or not we would agree with their what they want.
No, exactly.
But
I
it's easier for
understand.
us to understand the logistics, and it has to do mostly with scripted shows, multi episode shows that have a writer's room.
Hmm.
And the two parts of that are how long the writer's room exists during a season of a show, and
Hmm.
how many writers should be in the writer's room. So those are kind of the three big things. It's the
Okay.
writer's room, AI, and residuals for streaming services.
Interesting. Well, I know streaming service has to be a big deal because that's kind of a whole, I mean, as far as the writing guild and for
Hmm.
writers, it's a whole new frontier. And
Yes,
so
and
it's,
there's two parts of that. There is, maybe you had a contract for a scripted show on a television network,
yeah,
and it's really easy to get the data on
yeah,
viewership and how many times the show ran on a traditional network.
yeah,
So it's easy to get that information and be able to make sure you were properly paid.
yeah.
But then it could go to streaming.
Hmm.
The other side of that is shows that are direct to streaming and never go to the TV.
Hmm.
And because the studios and the streaming services keep all of their streaming numbers super proprietary,
Yes, they do.
no one is allowed to know
No,
how much, some will say we have such and such number of subscribers,
yeah,
but they won't talk about how much a particular show was watched, or
yeah.
it's super rare when they say anything about
But usually,
viewership.
yeah, usually has to do if they have to make an excuse for going up on viewership prices, or it has to do
Yes.
with Netflix, or it has to do with them trying to, give themselves a pat on the back for a show that they want to promote as being successful.
Yes.
And so,
Yeah, and even then they're pretty vague
yeah, they're pretty vague.
when
They don't
when
give you
they
much
say their
number.
numbers. It's
Yeah.
not very precise. Um, so the Writers Guild obviously would like writers to be paid proper residuals based on streaming viewership of a stream.
Hmm.
That
Interesting.
way, if you were work if you wrote a highly streamed show,
Okay.
you would get paid more than if you wrote a show that hardly got any streaming, hardly anybody watched.
Okay.
But right now, technically, they could both get paid exactly the same, and there's no way to know whether or not
Yeah.
it
No.
that
Exactly. Yeah.
that anything was inappropriate.
Yeah.
Basically, the idea here is that if a show is super successful, the writers should be able to earn more. But since they have no access to the numbers, they can't they
Gotcha.
can't say that I wasn't paid enough.
Yeah. Well, they're going to have some kind of public record. They're going to have to do something like an open book to be able to, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
unless they have an agreement with the writers saying, okay, we'll do this, but you can't have the numbers go out to the public. But how do you contain something like that? Because I know that's a big deal for them. They
Yeah,
don't want the numbers going out to the public.
exactly. And that kind of I want to get into the weeds, but I don't want to get into the weeds because it could get super convoluted.
Yeah, it
But
could.
but theoretically, if they were, even if you didn't show the numbers to the writer to
Yeah.
prove that this is how much you got paid, if they were precise on residuals based on viewership, you could basically backwards engineer the numbers.
Yeah, you could.
As it stands right now, generally, if it's streaming, you get your pay,
Yeah.
and you get a residual based on it still being on the streaming service, but
Yeah.
not on viewership.
Hmm.
So it doesn't. So there's no way to say. The only way you can know that it got viewed was that they keep it on the streaming service. Because if
So
it's
let's
not
say,
getting
yeah.
views, they might take it off. But if it stays on the streaming service, all you know is somebody's watching it, obviously, because they kept it.
So if I want to
Um,
watch Futurama, like 4 times in a row, like I've done in the past,
mhm.
so that doesn't matter. If I'm watching again, they're still going to get, technically,
They're
they
going to
want
get
to
the
get paid
same amount of
for it.
money,
Yeah.
regardless of how many people watched it.
Yeah.
But they want to get paid based on the viewership.
Yes.
Now, that could be a two-edged sword for writers
Yeah.
in theory, but the Writers Guild is going to write it in such a way that the Writers Guild wants the contract written in such a way that those people who wrote something that didn't get huge viewership still gets compensated well,
Mm-hmm.
but so that if it was a big hit, you got paid
Yeah.
more.
Gotcha.
So the other issue with that is if they made those the viewership of individual shows public, some of these shows are on contract. Some of these shows are on a contract like this, where, like Netflix, especially, um, if Netflix didn't make it, Netflix
Mm-hmm.
signs a contract and says, "Okay, I'll put your movie or show or whatever on
Yeah.
Netflix for 2 years,
Okay.
and in 2 years we'll come back to the table and we'll sign a new contract, or we'll say, yeah, no, we don't want it again." Well, if those numbers are public, now the person who owns the property can then uh, has a better negotiating position
Mm-hmm.
against Netflix if their show was very popular.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's one of those. If they make this public, it's going to cause a lot of problems for the streaming services in the negotiating for the
Yeah.
writers
Yeah.
and for the people who own the intellectual property.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the Writers Guild that's going to come into play if
Yeah.
these numbers are public.
Yeah.
But even if they did it, I my guess is that what the streaming services would have to say is, okay, we'll do it, but here's the deal: you're not going to get a flat rate for everybody across the board. If the show's not getting views, your writer's going to get a whole lot less than they would have if
Mm-hmm.
we'd have just had a flat contract.
Exactly.
I
Gotcha.
don't know how I don't know how else they would
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know how else the studios and the streaming services could do it or
I
would
would
do
think,
it.
I don't know. Part of me think it's fair if, if the writers want to be paid by viewership, those who view,
Mm-hmm.
then it should also work on the streaming service advantage too, where it's like, okay, well, if you're only getting so many views, you shouldn't get the same amount of compensation as someone who's getting,
Yeah,
someone who's getting, hundreds and hundreds of views or.
exactly. Well, like Disney removing Willow.
Yeah.
I mean, the assumption is nobody's watching it.
Yeah,
Why would they remove it if it's being watched?
exactly.
Um, so that
Well,
would
yeah.
be an instance where the writers for the Willow series would have to get paid a whole lot less.
Yeah. Well, and they take it off completely and they don't get paid at
They
all.
don't get residuals at all. Exactly.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a big issue there if they started making that public.
Yeah. It's affecting it's affecting shows that are being pushed back, I mean, even shows that are in production right now.
Hmm.
We talked about earlier, we talked about some of the shows that where some artists are gifted at ad libbing and in some of their
Yes. Did
characters.
we talk about this on this show last
We
week?
didn't talk. No, I don't think we didn't talk. I don't think
You
we
and
talked
I
about it
just
in the
talked
show.
about it.
We just talked about it.
Yeah.
And an example is Deadpool. And we all know
Yes.
Deadpool 3, and we all know Deadpool is, usually if you're a writer, you have a space that's saying just do whatever Ryan Reynolds. have fun with it
Yeah.
because that's Deadpool, and Ryan Reynolds has that gift of gab and ad lib,
And
and that
Ryan Reynolds is listed as a writer.
is he really
He is. He is one of the writers of Deadpool 3.
okay?
So that's a kind of a double whammy on there.
Yeah, it is a double
Um,
whammy.
but apparently, the contract for that film explicitly states that if there's no writers on set and the
Hmm.
writer's strike is going on, they must adhere strictly
Strictly
to the
to yeah,
written script,
yeah,
which completely eliminates Ryan Reynolds' ability to ad lib on
yeah,
set and make up better stuff than was originally written.
and that's really, and that's the thing. You know, the past two movies. I mean, that was the gift, right? That's
Hmm.
what he did, and that's what Deadpool is. I mean,
And
so he's
we've seen the outtakes where he
yeah,
goes where he says some line 15 times,
yeah,
coming up with different things to pop off, and not just him, some of the other actors as well.
yeah, exactly. Which really enriches the movie because actually,
Absolutely.
who's better than ad libbing and just going off the cuff than Deadpool, and
Yeah.
and
Can you
so
imagine? Can you imagine trying to shoot a Robin Williams movie
no,
with that kind of
no,
contract?
you can't do that. You might as well just shut down the production until it was over with.
Yeah.
And there
The
was talks about that with Deadpool too, but
yeah.
from my understanding, they are going into production or already in production.
The last thing I read said they are starting production. So my big question is, what are they going into production on? Because
Yeah,
now one thing I can think about is, well, if you shot all of the if you shot scenes, only scenes that you knew absolutely for sure the script would not change
yeah,
in these scenes, that could work. It's like,
yeah,
okay, yes, Ryan Reynolds could ad lib here, but there's no way he would because it's so story specific that he
yeah,
has to say this, or other actors where we're just going to shoot the script. There is no ad lib because if you ad lib, we have to change a whole bunch of other things, and that's the other problem with not having a writer on set. If you ad lib something and the director goes, "That's brilliant. We're going to make that something that is a thread in the movie now." With no writers on set, you can't fix the
yeah.
rest of the script to
That's it.
match
Yeah, that's the problem because you have to have a writer on set to make those changes,
that.
and there's
Yes.
always changes like that. And just because something is written and it's put in for production, it's like anything. They know there's going to be changes. Things are just not going to happen the way they were hoping. Okay, well, this was a mistake. Can we do this instead? You have stars putting their input in, so
Hmm.
they'll change this, they'll change that, and that's just part of the business. So,
Have you seen the interview with Kirshner, the director of Empire,
no, I have
where
not.
he's talking about the scene where Han Solo is going to be frozen in carbonite,
Hmm.
and he says they shot the line that it was, that
Oh,
Leia says is, "I love you," and the line that Harrison's supposed to say back is, "I love you too."
gotcha
That's the
too.
way the script was written.
Yeah,
And Kirshner says they shot it and shot it. They shot it multiple times. It just wasn't working. And then all of a sudden, Kirshner just said, "All right, shoot it, shoot it. Harrison, just say whatever comes to your mind." And that's where the classic line of "I know"
no,
comes from.
yeah,
It was a pure ad lib. Those happy moments, those happy
yeah.
coincidences can't happen because of the writer's strike right
No,
now.
you can't, and you cut down the creativity of the artist and in the
Yes.
production. and that's the whole idea. The business is about creativity. And
Hmm.
so if you're shackled to what's on paper and there's things that you go, okay, this is not working, you have no choice unless you just shut it down and say, let's wait till this thing is over. Or like you
Hmm.
said, let's just shoot scenes that we can do. But and man, a Deadpool movie, how many scenes do you have that you can shoot without having any type of ad lib or anything? I mean, I don't know, because Hugh
The
Jackman is going to be in this one too. So this is
yes,
you. So here we go on
and
another
if they're
one.
going to play off of each other,
Yeah,
they have to have that
they
freedom.
have to have that freedom.
Now,
I
the
I don't.
only other thing I can come up with, and this one's a bit of a stretch, but I think it could be doable,
Yeah.
is you shoot the scenes as written with Ryan Reynolds having the mask on.
Mm-hmm.
You know you're going to ADR all that audio. He's
Mm-hmm.
going to be in the studio and have to re-say all of his lines anyway. We
Mm-hmm.
know it. We know that's going to happen. So we shoot the film and then we wait until the writer's strike is over. Then we go into the ADR studio and we re-record his dialogue
Mm-hmm.
and allow him to then ad lib and make it work with him having the mask on.
You can do that, but man, it's still the mannerism of every, because part of the ad libbing is the mannerism too. So you
Yes.
could be saying one thing, and dubbing it over, is it may not come across the same way or feel right with every mannerism that he's using. The
Yeah.
movement of his body, the way he's tilting his head, just some of those things that just gives off, with the dialogue. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, I totally see what you're talking about, but I don't know. I see this as a big hindrance for the movie. And
I absolutely agree.
and with having Hugh Jackman in it, this is not the movie that you want to, pardon my pun, jack it up. Uh, I
Well,
just
and I am amazed that Marvel has decided to try to push through.
I really am. I don't
So
understand it.
there's another side note to this.
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't look this up before the show to confirm whether the vote has happened or if it's happened, whether it passed. But SAG-AFTRA, that is the Actors Guild. They have they are either going to take or have taken a vote on whether to stand in solidarity with the writers and basically go on strike as long as the writers are on strike.
So nothing's going to happen.
So
All pro-
nothing would happen
so
if that
production.
happens.
So yeah,
Yeah, so I mean that's another part of this that we have to watch. If that gets passed, um, there's,
well, and
I mean,
and we've been and we've
only
yeah,
non-union things can happen at that
yeah.
point.
Well, and the thing is, we've talked about already where there's several artists, stars that are in solidarity with
Yes.
with the writers group,
Hmm.
writers guild. So um, I wonder, it'd be interesting the politics behind that, because some actors, man, they want to continue making movies,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but
You've got
they're
the actors who just want to cash a check.
yes,
You've got the actors who are just like, I just want to make movies. I
yeah,
don't care what's going. I want to do my art. And then
yeah,
there are those who are in complete agreement with the WGA,
yeah.
or don't want to get flack.
Well, I think that's part of it too. I think that's part of
Yeah.
it too. I think is also too. Um, it's not so much scabs, but I remember what side you on when this happened. It's
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. You went ahead and acted while we were on strike. Here,
Oh,
let me write you something to that you're now going to be required to do.
exactly.
Uh,
Seriously, yeah, you're right.
the retaliation that could happen that way, it
Yeah,
could be horrible. So, what
yeah.
do you
So
think about the discussion on the AI side? The theory that studios could use AI to either come up with ideas, write actual scripts, or to punch up existing scripts.
Honestly, I've been using it for, some fun stuff here, like stupid news and trying to play
Mhm.
around with it. But nothing's going to replace the creativity of a human being, at least not where we're at right now. The
Mhm.
technology is not there yet. I'm sure the AI will be a good source where you can get some ideas. You can put in, I mean, there are several things, wild things that I put in there where I did something that was kind of the cross between Toy Story and Breaking Bad, and, Woody is, dealing meth, and he's, coming against the other toy cartels. So, which I thought, man, that's a great story. And so, you can take some of that and you can definitely get some ideas, but to have a really, written out script, um, I don't know. We're just not at that point right now. But also, too, it makes me wonder, too, if we talked about actors, the whole AI thing for actors, we've seen,
Mhm.
dehancement, we've,
Yeah.
we've looked at some of that, um,
Yeah, some of the
you know,
de-aging and
yeah, the
some of
de-aging,
the
what I just say, yeah, de-aging, did I
yeah.
say de-icing? I don't know. Probably the
Yeah,
same thing
that
with some of these
well,
artists.
that and
Uh,
then fully digital, you know.
yeah.
Um,
So,
that's
well, I mean, yeah, and I can see, it was a comment, and I don't think I had, no, I didn't have it up for nerdy news, but Mark Hamill made a comment about, they was asking him, and I wish I can remember what publication, but they were asking Mark Hamill if he's excited about, doing any more Luke Skywalker you know,
mm,
maybe shows, after,
yeah.
Return of the Jedi and stuff. And he says, no, he said, if they do that, there's some other young actors who can do that. And with the
Mm.
technology they have, they can do it if they happen to do it. And so, which
I
is
think that is
interesting.
a I think that is a very mature and a great outlook
Yeah.
on that idea. I,
Yeah.
personally, I think Harrison Ford needs to take a page out of Mark Hamill's
Oh,
playbook
I
there.
think so too. I think so too.
And all props to Harrison Ford. I love him as an actor.
Yeah, I do too.
And I'm vaguely excited to see him as General Thunderbolt Ross,
Yes.
and Red Hulk as well. I don't know if he'll actually be the Red Hulk, or
Yeah.
I can't imagine seeing 80-year-old Harrison Ford run around with a Red Hulk head
I
on the
don't see
top of
that
his head, like,
happening.
like we see with the current regular Hulk
Yeah,
character.
exactly. Yeah. The
I
big head
can't
walking
imagine.
around.
Yeah, I can't imagine they're going to do that with Harrison Ford.
No, I don't think
But
Harrison Ford. Yeah.
he's supposed to be. He's going to be. Oh, he's going to play a president again, which he's done before.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
that fits.
that fits
But
in for him.
I'm vaguely interested to see that. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I am kind of, Harrison, it might be time.
Well, I think this is going to, I think this will be the last, well, I'm hoping this be the last de-aging he does, and not de-icing, but I hope this is the last de-aging he does,
Yeah.
with Indiana Jones, because it's time to kind of move on. But I do think it's interesting, it and I think there could be a concern about actors who have characters like Han Solo, who,
Hmm.
like not, like the movie Solo. A lot of people weren't.
Yeah.
Some people didn't receive it very well,
Yes.
but you can come back with an actor that looks like Han Solo and digitize it, and you have
Hmm.
so many archives with the voice.
Yep.
They can make it happen, and they're getting better and better. And we've seen that from the early stages of Rogue One, where they
Yes.
they they did that with the voice audio, and they also did it
Hmm.
with digitizing and adding the
Hmm.
actors from New Hope, which most of them are not around anymore at that time.
Yeah.
So Hollywood can use this technology, and I can understand both writers and actors being
Mhm.
concerned about that.
And what I read, it was a Hollywood Reporter article specifically about the AI.
Yeah,
The Writers Guild basically wants to out and out ban AI completely.
yeah, I saw that. I read that.
Um,
I don't.
Now the producers and the 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 studios, their comeback was, well, tell you what, let's do an annual conversation about it
Yeah,
and see where we are. Obviously, they know the technology isn't there yet,
yeah, and that's exactly right. Now, eventually, I can
but
see it happening.
eventually it could. Yeah,
I
and I'm a little conflicted on this idea.
Yeah,
I definitely think there is no substitute for the human element.
yeah,
Um, but at the same time, I come back to when you say, well, there's nothing that an AI can't come up with an original idea. They can just synthesize from other ideas or you know improvise on existing
yeah,
ideas.
yeah,
But
exactly.
at the same time, that's what most writers do.
Yeah,
Most writers don't come up with purely original
original stuff.
ideas.
Yeah, they pull
they
from
they
other
take
stuff.
Yeah, they pull from other things and they blend them together and they
Yeah,
mix them
whether
up to the
yeah,
point that it's just shy of unrecognizable as the original. um
exactly.
so uh so that could be how AI works. But at the same time, I think it would be hard for definitely the technology today, but
Hmm.
even going forward, I think there will be some element of AI that's just never quite going to be able to be replaced by a
No,
real live writer. Um, I mean, I've, as you said, you've used AI several times. I've used it to write some things, um, and I'm never happy with the results.
no, I always have to put myself in it. I have to change
Yeah,
stuff around. It's to me, it's just a foundation of going, this is interesting. Let me take this
yeah,
information because I've already gave it. I already input the information. Hey, do all of this. This is what I want. This is, and it writes it out. And then from there, I like again, I try to put myself in it because there's certain
hmm,
things that I would not say every day or write
right,
as what an AI does. And also, you think about the AI, what's going to happen if, like we talk about in the middle of production, let's say you have an
mhm,
AI that writes a script. Well, anything that needs to change, who's going to change it? It's going to be a writer. The
yeah.
AI is, I don't know. I mean, unless we're talking about Skynet, I can't see an AI changing, midstream and going, yeah, that would be better. Yeah, let's do this instead.
Well, and from what I've seen with AI is inevitably you ask it to change something and inevitably it changes other things
Oh, yeah.
along with it
Yeah, I can
or
change a whole
gets things
story.
incorrect.
Yeah.
Yeah, specifically chat gpt is
Yeah.
not good
No.
on specifics. If you
Yeah.
say give me ref I, I actually read this one thing. Chat gpt gave a list of books as references to an article that it wrote.
Hmm.
Half the books weren't real. It literally made up the books. So,
Wow.
if you're writing something that has to be factually accurate,
Yeah.
right now AI is not good at
No,
that.
it's not. No, it's not.
So the other thing is the writers' room, and kind of the big deal here is, I guess there's kind of two different kinds of writers' rooms, and this is where I don't quite understand all of it,
Yeah.
all the ins and outs. I guess there's a mini writers' room where they go in and um, for a very short period of time, a group of writers get together and they throw out ideas and basically they lay out every episode and the story, the overall story arc. They don't
Yeah.
write any scripts. They
Yeah.
just get all the important parts lined up. Um, then some studios will have a single writer write everything, and they kind of want to either get rid of that or make the mini writers room have to last longer.
Yeah.
Then the other part is that they want more people in the writers room based on the length of the season, up to a maximum of 12. Now, I've done. I'm going to right up front say I'm not a writer. I'm not good at writing as a general rule. I feel like I'm an okay editor. Um, but I've done a couple of short films, and I've had 4 writers for my short, all at the same time, working on my short films together, and I thought they worked really well. I can't imagine 12 writers.
I can't imagine that. Yeah.
That seems like a lot. Now if you said, okay, there's 12 writers in the writers room, these 4 are working on this episode, and these 4 are working on this episode, and these 4 are working on this episode, that might make sense. But I'm just not sure I understand all the ins and outs of how the writers room works.
Yeah.
Now, I know comedy writers rooms, like for Saturday Night Live, they're all pitching jokes. And
Yeah.
then they figure out the consensus goes with, okay, this one works, this one doesn't. We don't want to say that on TV. Oh yeah, we're absolutely going to say this because we want to bash this particular person.
Hmm.
Whatever
Yeah.
it is,
Whatever it is. Yeah.
whatever it is that they're doing at that time. I can see that a little having a bigger writers room makes a little more sense there. But when you're writing a scripted series, and and honestly, from what I was reading, it sounds like they just about want to ban the idea of a single writer writing an entire season.
Hmm. Okay.
So that's kind of interesting. I don't know that I
But that rarely
understand or
happens,
agree with
doesn't
that.
it?
I would think it rarely happens. I mean, the shows you and I watch, there's a different director every episode. There's a
Yeah.
different writer every episode. Now, somebody has gotten together and scripted the overall story arc so
Yeah.
that it all makes sense. But yeah, I'm not sure you could get how doable that is unless you're
Yeah.
just an amazing writer. So I mean, maybe that's something that is happening. It doesn't seem like it probably does in most of the stuff I have watched. I mean,
Yeah.
even films, most films have multiple writers,
Yeah.
and they're only uh, 90 minutes to 3 hours long.
Yeah.
They're not
Exactly.
22 episodes a
Yeah.
season.
Yeah.
you know, I can't imagine having one writer for an entire season of a show.
Oh
But
yeah.
but I guess that's a big thing. They want more writers, and they want the writers' room to last longer. So
Hmm.
basically, the working writers get paid longer for what they're working on.
So
Their
do you have any?
regular salaries.
So if you had a guess, and this is totally just speculation. Um, let's say, what would you say? What would you say? What kind of agreement would be made? If what reasonable agreement do you think will come between the streaming services and the writers? Um,
The
the
the streaming services, I think, is probably the easiest one to solve.
Yeah.
Um, they're going to have to figure out some sort of, if they're not going to provide actual data,
Hmm.
they're going to have to provide some kind of tiered system,
Yes.
of popularity, and
Yeah.
be able to give residuals based on that. I
Yeah.
don't see any way around that one. Um, the AI situation, um, I,
I
on
think it's
that
too
one,
early. Yeah.
I think it's just
I
too
think it's too
early.
early, and
To say to completely ban it, I think is probably not realistic.
no.
Um, to to limit its use, I think is probably realistic. Maybe it does certain, it can't, they can use it for certain things, but not other things. Or even if they do, they have to still have, I mean, I can't imagine, I can't imagine a studio taking a full AI script and doing a production
I,
without a writer involved
yeah,
somewhere.
somewhere in
I
the,
can't imagine it. I think it would probably be a disaster and crash
oh,
and burn.
oh yeah.
But so I think probably you're right. I think we're too early on that to make a hard and fast rule.
And I
But
think, and I think sometimes too, you have to understand. I mean, like most, I mean, like most negotiations, you're going to ask for the moon, hoping that you'll get some of
yes,
it. And so
yeah,
I
and
think
from
the
what I'm
AI
reading right
part,
now,
yeah,
they're just too far apart.
yeah,
WGA is asking for too much,
yeah,
and the studios are not willing to give up enough.
yeah,
And honestly, I think that's where we are in all this.
yeah,
It's and from what I've read, they're so far apart that there's not even. It's not like there's, oh, we're getting close. It's like we're at, like you said, asking for the moon. WGA is asking for the moon, and the studios are willing to do nothing
yeah,
or hardly anything.
yeah.
I think the writers' room thing is probably solvable. That one's probably the easiest one, I think,
Hmm.
maybe to solve, just because if the studios let, definitely, I think the studios and WGA could meet somewhere in the middle and it would make sense. And it wouldn't be hard. I see that one as pretty simple.
Now I
Okay,
don't
we're
understand.
going to put on some extra writers. We're going to
Yeah,
make the writers' room last a little longer. We're not going to put on as many as you want, and we're not going to make it last as long
mm,
as you want. It's like they already exist. Can we
yeah.
just make it a little more? I think that one's doable. The AI thing, I think we're too early. The residuals, there's got to be some solution, but I'm not sure what it is without causing major issues to the streaming services
I have a
based on their
feeling.
current
Yeah,
work.
I think the biggest issue out of the three, and if I was a writer, my main concern is the streaming service.
Oh yeah,
Where
absolutely.
I think that is I think that's in front and center of what the real issues are, the
Hmm.
concerns are, and
Oh
that
yeah.
would be mine too, so, as a writer. So the other two, you know, I think one right now is too early. It's kind of a no go. I think it may have just been thrown in there for right now. The writers' room, yeah, I think it could be easily fixed um, out of the three.
Hmm.
But the streaming service, I think that's the biggest thing right now that concerns the writers and the streamings and the films, the studios who own these streaming services.
Yeah,
So
I mean the idea that I need to get paid based on how many people see it,
yeah,
and we will never tell you how many people see it.
yeah,
One side has to cave
yeah,
significantly,
yeah,
or there is no solution.
yeah. And there's no going forward.
No, all the others, I can see where compromises could be made.
Yeah,
That one, somebody has to, somebody has to just go, all right, if you're not going to tell, WGA has to say, okay, if you're not going to tell us, then you have to
yeah.
pay everybody a whole lot more.
And the biggest problem with this is that you can't you how do you represent so many streaming services? I mean, you know, every streaming service is not going to agree. Heck no, I'm not going to give them that. Or Disney goes, okay, we'll work with them, we'll do this. Well, it's all or nothing. I mean, it's all
Well,
or nothing.
it really is. And what you just said is interesting. I think the minute one of them, if any streaming service says, okay, we'll open the doors, we'll let you see everything, everybody will almost have to.
Yeah.
It's somebody like Disney.
Yeah.
I mean, if I don't know what's the smallest streaming service, you know, if Tubi says, "Oh yeah, we'll tell
Tubi.
you all of our data," nobody will care.
Nobody's
But
going to care, but
if Netflix or Disney, I mean, if Disney does it, Disney and Hulu will both do it.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's just a thing. If Netflix does it, probably everybody's going to have to do it. If
Hmm.
Disney does it, probably everybody's going to have to do it. Um, I
So would that mean the streaming services will have to fork out that money?
well, I think the only solution I see there is if they're going to release the data,
Hmm.
that the writers are going to have to accept a whole lot less if nobody's
Hmm.
watching your show.
I'm like, yeah. And that's going to have to be that way because,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't see any other way to do it.
Or if you're going to have to pass it over to the subscribers. And the next thing you know, okay, well, I'm not going to end up paying, 20
Well,
bucks a month, you know.
it, or this, I guess there's one other solution. The streaming services will just go, okay, we will pay you based on viewership. Oh, this show doesn't have enough viewership. It's gone. Sorry,
Yeah,
can't pay you anymore because I don't have to pay you anything now because we don't serve
it's
that.
gone. Exactly.
That show's gone. So we don't have to
It's
pay you at
gone.
all.
Yeah. So the next thing you know, the options are being whittled down
Yeah.
because, okay, we only want the stuff
We're only going to put the stuff
yeah,
that has good viewership so that we can afford to pay the writers what
yeah.
they have asked for. That's I feel like this one is going to be a lose-lose.
Oh, I agree.
I don't see a win-win for this one.
Oh, I don't either.
The, it's no matter what happens, I see this being a bad deal for the streaming services
Yes.
and a bad deal for the writers on
Yeah.
both sides.
I do too.
I can't see how this one comes up with a good solution that
Yeah.
actually everybody's happy with.
And it might, and how it's going to impact the subscribers
Mhm.
in the long run.
I could definitely see the streaming services start dropping content off of their
Hmm.
platforms that
Yeah.
aren't getting views for the simple reason of we're not going to pay residuals on things that are
Yeah.
not getting watched.
Or before they could just have it on there like a library and,
Yeah.
just keep it on there. But yeah, why now? If it gets to that point, yeah, you're going to see more and more shows drop.
Yep. Especially older shows,
Yeah.
nostalgia shows that people like to go back and watch every once in a blue moon.
Hmm.
You know, the black hole will disappear from Disney
Yeah.
Plus. I don't know what else, but yeah, those older
Yeah.
shows will
Yeah.
definitely die off if that has to happen.
Yeah.
I,
Oh,
I
I
don't
don't
see a
know.
good one. I don't see a good
I don't
solution
see
for this
it.
one.
I don't see it.
I think
It's
it's going
so
to be
sad.
bad no matter what.
That's right. And that's how we like to end the show.
On such a positive note.
Positive note. Yes, you can catch us. If you want more doom and gloom, go to speakingnerdy.com to see all our gloom and doom videos. We also have a Facebook page and also go to YouTube/Speaking Nerdy where you can say subscribe and like, which we really like. Nice. But yeah, so that was cheery. I better go watch my shows now on streaming service before they go away.
Oh my gosh.
I think I'll need to take off work tomorrow so I can watch all my shows.
This has been the Speaking Nerdy podcast with your host, Mr. Mike Schilling.
And my good friend and compadre always, Mr. Ricky Poe.
Compadre.
Compadre. Hey, hey, I'm not getting royalties for that. Compadre. I meant to
If
say
people
my
didn't,
friend Alway. Yeah, go ahead.
if people didn't realize that we record those voiceovers live, they do now.
They do now. Compadre.